بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله لا يقبل من العمل إلا ما كان له خالصا وابتغي به وجهه. Dear respected brothers, sisters, and dear listeners, you see that today's topic, the topic of sincerity. Last Jumu'ah, which I discussed 2 reasons for why men face depression, tension, frustration. First thing I mentioned was the lack of the dhikr of Allah, lack of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second is that lack of sincerity. Today we are doing action, but what we are doing it for? Doing it for the praise of the people. That so and so will tell me, okay, he's a great donor, he's a leading donor, for example. Which we say riya, showing off. Where Rasulullah said, Inna yasir al-riya shirk. A small amount of riya, a small amount of showing off is shirk. It's like ascribing partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why without sincerity, without having a sincere intention, and without having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of us, that whatever a'mal or whatever action I'm going to do, it has to be only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Until and unless I don't have that intention in me, then none of my deeds are going to be accepted. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبَلُ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ إِلَّا مَا كَانَ لَهُ خَالِصًا وَابْتُغِيَ بِهِ وَجْهُهُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept any amal. It can be anything. It can be any action, salah, zakah, donation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept any action except that which is done solely for His sake. And we seek the countenance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, the pleasure of Allah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with me. And that's what the Sahaba showed us. The Sahaba, they are our role models. They are our role models. And they have built themselves in such a way that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declared for them, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, there was this person, his name was Usman. So whenever his name would be mentioned in different majlis, in different gatherings, then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, Huwa min ahli nar, he's from the people of Jahannam. So the Sahaba were very confused on hearing this statement, that how is it possible? And then when the battle of Uhud came, he fought on the side of the Muslimin, and he fought ruthlessly, fearlessly. A fearless fighter, ruthless fighter. And then what happened? When this person, due to suffering severe amount of injury, when he was taken to his tribe, then they all started congratulating him. They started to congratulate him, give him glad tidings. Say that good to you, good on you. Appreciating his bravery, appreciating his ruthlessness and fearlessness. And then this person spoke out saying, look, I only fought for the interest of my tribe. I only fight for Allah. Because the Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, people fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protecting the family honor, for showing off. So who's actually in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qatala li takuna kalimatullahi hiya al-ulya fa huwa fi sabilillah." That the one who fights to raise the kalima of Allah, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's in fact in the path of Allah. So this Uthman, he said, I fought for the interest of my tribe. And if it wasn't for the interest of my tribe, I wouldn't have fought. And the injury and the wound that he suffered in the battle, when he couldn't bear it, when he couldn't survive, then he took a spear out of his quiver and he committed suicide. And a person commits suicide is already in hellfire. So my dear brothers, whatever we do, we have to do it for the sake of Allah. Today, Allah Ta'ala forgive us. We donate for the masjid, we donate for Islamic institutions, and we start to boast over it. We start to boast at saying, look, I am so-and-so of the masjid, I am the founder of the masjid, I am this. I have to keep in my mind, a masjid has foundation, a masjid has no founder. If a masjid was to have founder, then the one who is more entitled to be a founder was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. When the two great masajid were built, Masjid al-Quba and Masjid al-Nabawi. So the one most entitled to claim himself to be a founder is none other than Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he wanted, he could have also told the Sahaba, I am the founder of the Masjid al-Nabawi. But there is nowhere in Quran and there is nowhere in Hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared himself as founder of the mosque. A masjid has foundation. لَمَسْجِدٌ أُسِّسَ عَلَى التَّقْوَى. The foundation of a masjid has to be on taqwa. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَا تُبْطِلُوا صَدَقَاتِكُمْ بِالْمَنِّ وَالْأَذَى. Don't nullify your favors or the charity you give in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't nullify them and don't destroy their rewards by being boastful over it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to fear Allah, my dear brothers. Nowhere in my grave at Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not ask me if you're a founder of the mosque or not, if you're a founder of the school or not, if you're a founder of the madrasa or not. That's not going to be questioned at Qiyamah. If I want my rewards to be sadaqah jariyah, I have to do it only for the sake of Allah. And you see, if I don't do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'll remain frustrated. You see, for example, I did favor for someone, for example. And this person, he did khiyana with me, he was treacherous with me, he betrayed me, for example. Now the real test will come. That the favor I did for him, is it so that he can be happy or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be? If I do it for the sake of Allah, my dear brothers and sisters, then there is no room for me to regret. But if I do it for somebody else, so-and-so will call me this, so-and-so will call me that, then one day I have to regret. But oh, what I didn't do for him. That's how human nature is. And these were, my dear brothers, we have to keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from us. Every single action, like for example, regarding the month of Ramadan, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban." So a person who fasts in the month of Ramadan with iman and what? Expecting reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my dear, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't look like those people who go on to people who boast over favors, who donate for the masjid And they would want to deteriorate his rewards by being boastful to people. That look, I donated this much amount for the masjid. My dear, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me. This is sadaqah jariyah, and I'll be rewarded for it in my grave, my dear brothers. So let's make firm intention that whatever action we'll do, it will be only for Allah. It will be solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala front of me. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets pleased for me in dunya and akhirah. Otherwise, my dear brothers, the only thing that is waiting for me is regret. That I'll have to regret my dear brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us this quality of being sincere. But وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been ordered to make ibadah only for Him. Man qala la ilaha illallah mukhlisa. A person who recites la ilaha illallah with complete sincerity, with complete ikhlas, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will admit him into Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to develop the correct intention, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a clean heart, and whatever amal we do, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to do it only for His sake. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Inshallah we'll pray our sunnah.